Farida, I'm so happy I'm here with you at the SEF 2024, and I know it's not your first time being here. How many times have you been at SEF?
As many as there are SEFs.
I think there've been like 6 editions. This is the 7th.
So then it's my 7th SEF. Yes, absolutely.
Since the first year.
Since the first year,
How do you see SEF different from all of those years?
So I think the big shift for me really came when they moved the location to the research park.
Yeah.
Because I think just because of the layout of the research park, it really created a village, and it's
like
so,
a community.
Absolutely, it's so kind of cozy, and you just want to be in the town square and see everybody that you know.
You're very comfortable too. Like when there's different zones, and every zone just it feels like home.
Absolutely, and I think this year they did an amazing job. I mean, the amount of speakers, the quality of the speakers. I was really sad. I told one of the organizers, I'm like, I'm happy for you, but I'm sad for me because I'm going to miss so much amazing content because I can just only be in one place at the time, right?
Yeah. Even myself, when I'm presenting at the booth and being here and there, I have such amazing people that I've met along the way. But then looking at it back, I'm like, how many amazing people more can I meet at such events? Having said that, I have met you, Farida. You are a speaker yourself here.
Yes.
And tell me why you're here and what's your role.
Absolutely. So Shira has played a big role in my life over the last, I would say, 4.5 years specifically, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a lawyer. I've been working in the region for the last 12 years. And the latest project, hopefully not the last, but the latest project that I've been involved in is a startup called Kima. And Shira was the incubator for Kima, basically. We came up with the idea. We had kind of probably a first MVP ready, and then we participated in the S3 accelerator, which took place, I believe it was 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So Kima was founded in 2019, that's when we conceived the idea. We did research, and then 2021 we were part of the S3 accelerator. And so Shira has played a huge role for us as a startup, to be a platform for learning, for interaction, and also kind of to really give us the input that we needed as a young manufacturing startup.
So who's Farida outside Kima? Because I know you're not just a lawyer, but you're also into your family business. You're into a million different things.
I'm busy. Yes,
You're busy. That's a good way to put it.
But you can empathize with that. So I know that you're the same. So basically, I would say that I have 3 hats at the moment. So one is the co-founder of Kima. The second one is that I've been running a research organization, so a think tank that does research on family enterprises in the region. So the ثروات Family Business Forum is a non-profit private sector research institution that looks at the economic impact and importance of family enterprises in the wider MENA region. And what we try to do is, by generating new data and insights, is try to support the evolution and the growth of these family enterprises. And then my third hat is my sisters and I have a media company that is based in Switzerland, and that's run by one of my sisters.
MashaAllah. Tell me more about your family business, because we were just having these conversations beforehand, how going into business with friends is a risky thing, but going in with your family, now that's another story.
So it's interesting, right? Because I used to be a lawyer in Switzerland and had no family connections. I was working in a law firm by myself. And I already thought that was quite a challenge, right? Practicing law is not that easy.
And being alone in a country.
And well, I grew up in Switzerland, so that was helpful, right? So it is my country. I grew up there. But you're working in an environment that has no emotional ties to you, none. Right? The only emotional tie to your work is that I loved being a lawyer, so I was emotionally engaged in my job. And then, things changed, and I had the opportunity to come here and build this think tank and build this research community around family enterprises. My father was a co-founder. And so that was the first kind of work position where I had family ties to, because my father was a co-founder and because my sister started working with
So
me.
now you're completely engulfed with emotions.
So now imagine I'm working with family and I'm researching family business. So from being very independent and emotionally distant, right? You're in the middle of the storm, basically. And you have to learn how to deal with the fact that working with your sibling, working with your parent is a whole different story. And then fast forward, so I've been doing that for 12 years, and then fast forward now to 2019, I decide to go into business with two of my very close friends, which again was a different experience because now you do have emotional ties. They're not family ties, but you're emotionally involved with each other, and yet you take that risk to kind of go into a commercial venture. So I've kind of had all three experiences, you know, from completely no emotional ties other than the job to family to friends. And so kind of that's an interesting experience.
So now tell me the both sides of the coin, the benefits of having family in your business and the challenges that you face with having family in the business.
Well, you know, that would take like 5 hours to deep dive into everything. But I think, you know, there's a couple of things that we can talk about here. For me, the big advantage of being in business with family and with my good friends is that I've always been lucky to have a family where I have no doubts that they have my back. So we can disagree on things, we can, you know, we can have conflict, we can have, you know, kind of really difficult moments.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I've been lucky enough to have a family where it will never be the case that they would stab me in the back or that they would not want the best for me as a person. Now, the downside is that you're continuously emotionally involved with your work. So there is no switch off button, right? You go home at night, your family members will talk about the work, right? You're at work in the morning, you have your family members there. So there is no off button. So it's like, I always call it like working with your family is like entrepreneurship on steroids. Right? It's like the extreme version of entrepreneurship.
Really?
Yeah.
So what if you actually have boundaries related to that? You have like actual conversations like after 5, no work talk. Does that ever work?
It can work. It can work. I think.
But realistically speaking.
No, it does. I
does.
know families that have a health, like it really, it depends on each family culture, right? Here's where family culture comes in. If we have a family culture that allows us for open and honest conversations, then boundaries are possible. If I have a family culture where we kind of try to avoid discussions and where we try to make sure to please certain people, then boundaries are very, very hard. So for me, the fundamental question always is, I always look, when I write a case study about a family, I look at the family culture before the business. Because the family culture is going to tell us how these people can work together and can they be honest about each other, right? About themselves to each other. Can they say, no, this is too far, right? And the interesting thing is, I think it's something that we can learn, but we need awareness in order to learn. This is where it becomes difficult, right? When I don't share the same awareness or the same need for change with my family members, that's when it starts getting hard.
You know, going back to what you said, the bright side of having business and family together, you said they have your back, they would never stab you in the back, but there is this element of you guys could have conflict at work that can affect your relationship
100%.
at work, at home.
100%. And vice versa.
Yeah.
I might have a discussion with my sisters or disagreement with my sisters around
So how
something.
do you handle these kinds of situations? Because you've been now for years in the family businesses, and I'm pretty sure you have reached a place where you have the solution.
No, there is no solution.
There's no solution.
There is no solution.
So don't go into business with your family, or what are you trying to advise us?
I think the only approach is continuous communication.
Okay.
Continuous communication. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
I have a family that wants to grow together, and we have that need to
Mashallah.
grow together,
Yeah.
right? So that's what makes it possible. Everything else is really, really hard.
So tell me about the business you have with your sisters. That's that's related to the family business. What are you guys going to do about it?
So basically we have since now, I think about 2016. So we were publishers before starting this business. So we had a magazine. We have a magazine. We have podcasts.
And what's the name of the magazine?
ثروات magazine.
ثروات
Yes.
magazines.
And
the podcast too.
And the podcast. And we have a platform called Women in Family Business. So
Okay.
what we did is we used our knowledge about family businesses.
Yeah.
We created magazines and podcasts to talk about it more. But then we also realized in 2016, more and more people came to us and said, you know, we love how you create content. Like, how can I make better content for my business? How can I communicate better about my business? So then we spun off a company called Orbis Terra Media, which is based in Switzerland, and it's a global content strategy agency. And so what we do is we do both brand consultancy for businesses, content consultancy for businesses, but also personal branding for leaders. So what we've noticed very often is you might know where your business is going, but then as a leader, you underestimate that you need to invest in yourself as well. So that's the business in Switzerland.
Where can we find your podcast?
On www.tharawatmagazine.com and womeninfamilybusiness.org. And the podcast is called Family Business Voice. So you can find them on all the platforms.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
Absolutely.
everywhere.
We're everywhere, yes.
How has your journey been like working with your sister? And now I spoke about your family as a
Sure.
whole. Your father was a co-founder and everything.
Sure.
But sisters, there's a different kind of connections that you guys have with them. Empathetic, loving, nurturing, and all of these
Ideally.
things. Ideally. I mean, not the times where you want to kill them. But then you have this other aspect where you are just a businesswoman, where you're out there, you're straightforward, facts, strict. So in the way I'm asking this, how can your sisters or you per se, sometimes you could be on the receiving end, be able to navigate this and move forward and have a balance of nurture and masculine energy of, if that makes sense?
Sure. So I think I wouldn't call it masculine energy. I think it's the idea that, you know, business is about getting things done.
Yes.
And sometimes, you know, we don't have time to ask, how are you? Or we don't have time to cry because we want to cry.
I mean, you know that your sister is going through something, but you have XYZ,
but we have XYZ
to do.
Exactly. So, and you know, it's interesting because you're asking this in relation to my sisters, but I think it's in every co-founder relationship, honestly. It's the same question, right? So how do I balance my need or my wish for a harmonious relationship with the needs of a business, which is fast-paced, sometimes very harsh, right? Sometimes we have to take decisions that are very painful.
Yes.
And that is just the reality. If you do not want to do that, don't go into business. Like, that's always my very clear. If you are not able to take difficult decisions in difficult situations, then business is not for you. So that is the premise, right? Now, the layer of emotionality on top of that is, of course, a whole different story, right? That is really where we say, like, at what point do I need to create a culture where everybody feels seen, where everybody feels appreciated, but also everybody has a switch where we are like, you know what? The priority right now is not on the people. The priority is on the facts and on the business, and we need to drive it forward. And I can tell you, ideally, if you have consciously worked on that culture, and I now have the experience both with my co-founders who are friends and my co-founders who are sisters, it's a bit of a lengthy process. You have to invest in the relationship, but once you get to that point of trust, this is where trust becomes really important. Once you get to that point of trust, you each almost have like a switch where you're like, you know what? I trust that you see me. I trust that you appreciate me. But I also understand that right now my emotions are secondary to what we need to get done. But I know that I will always have space with you to get back to that and to voice my insecurities, to voice my concerns, maybe my displeasement with what you're doing. There will be that space. And I think this is where building trust with your partners is the most important thing.
I like how we're having this conversation. And this is a very rare conversation. We're talking about business, but then you're involving so much of emotions, of insecurities, and having this vulnerability around you. I want to talk about how, and because you emphasize a lot on having a relationship with your co-founder.
Yes.
Sometimes family, they could be your family, they could be your friends. Sometimes they could just be a colleague or someone you met, you like the idea, you get, your values are the same, you have a few conversations and you realize, you know what, we would be good together to lead this forward. How can someone develop, in the last scenario, how can someone develop a good relationship with their co-founders when they're not their best friend or their family or their close relative?
It's an interesting question. I would speculate that it might actually be easier because
Wow, really?
you do not come with all the baggage of knowing so much about each other.
But
right?
then there's also so much uncertainty.
100%. So this is why the choice of co-founder, I've become convinced out of personal experience, the choice of co-founder is extremely important. So why is that? I think neutrality is a great place to start, right? Because I don't 20 years ago, we said this to each other and this is going to come up and in the wrong moment, none of that, right? So in that sense, it's a safe space. However, it will only remain a safe space if you find someone that has the same capacity and willingness to communicate as you do. So you have to then build that new culture together of collaboration and communication. And if you don't do that, and if it's, I mean, we've all seen, right? And we've all been there, startups that didn't continue, collaborations that became very difficult.
Yes.
And the main reason of failure, I think, I once saw a statistic, I'll have to try to find it, but that one of the main reasons of failure is co-founder conflicts. Right? Not just because the business is bad, and sometimes you have bad product market fit, and all of those things are also factors, of course. But there is a huge factor of co-founders, if there's more than one, not being aware that there is an importance around collaboration and communication.
There are so many instances that you hear, friends of 10 years go into business and then they break out of that.
Absolutely, and they fall out. And it's, for me, I'm a very empathetic person. I like a harmonious environment, right? So for me, it breaks my heart when I see beautiful friendships disappear. On the other hand, you also have to say, what type of friendship was it when it cannot overcome a certain hurdle? I've been very lucky, to be very honest. I'm saying this from a position of, luck, because I've managed to overcome 1,000 hurdles with my sisters, and we adore each other and we still want to be together and we are happy when we see each other.
And you don't want to kill each other when you look at each other.
No, I do want to kill them sometimes. Okay. And they want to kill me for sure.
So you can love someone, but you want to kill them.
Of course. But that's kind of, I think it's a healthy relationship. But I think, we've overcome so many things and we know each other so much better. Same with my friends, right? We've overcome really difficult situations. We've come out of it the other end. But again, honestly, it takes as much work as building the actual business is building the relationship that comes with the business. That's my conviction, at least.
Thank you so much, Farida. I really enjoyed this communication. And you know what? It has given me a whole complete perspective on how you could actually go into business with your family and friends, because all the time it used to be a red flag for me, or something I'm very scared of. Someone from the outside, it's fine, you can deal with them, but your family, when there's emotions involved, it's just too complicated.
And it can be, and I'm not, I would be very critical of myself and my family relationships if I consider going now, in hindsight, because hindsight is 2020, right? I would really sit down and reflect a lot. Would I do this? But if I do it, with the right attitudes, with the right investment, not just into the business, but the right investment into the relationship.
Thank you so much, Farida. I'll be looking forward to your speaking session at SEB.
Thank you very much.
And I hope you come next year too.
Inshallah. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Likewise.
Thank you.